You duct taped a disabled kid's mouth shut.
Yes, I did. He wouldn't shut up.
Dr. Phil has encountered many crazy and rude guests over the years, but every once in a while he'd run into some guests who crossed the line. Stick around for the entire video as you are not going to want to miss the times spoiled kids got owned by Dr. Phil, the allowance child.
So you want me to get her to do what?
I need her to understand that I need at least $2,500 a month.
Do you want to win any of these items on the screen? If so, be sure to watch the whole video, leave a like, and comment the hidden message. What would you do if your $5,000 allowance from your mother was reduced to $1,000 in a snap? Hopefully you would have been grateful for all the times you got that $5K allowance, and be grateful you're still getting a fraction of that. However, for 15-year-old Nicole Gray, she decided to call Dr. Phil and seek justice. No, for real. Unfortunately for Gray, Dr. Phil sided with her mother, Nina, and introduced the concept of reparenting. He even had the audacity, from her point of view, to suggest Gray needed to get a job so she could make a contribution to society instead of taking from society. Gray currently embraces her title as the Beverly Hills Brat and garnered a respectable following on YouTube, and both she and Nina amassed considerable Insta fame, which you could argue was both helpful and detrimental to the cause. Less than a month after her Dr. Phil episode aired, Nicolette posted a video of her 16th birthday present, a G-Wagon. Wait, it gets better. Nearly a month after that, she replaced the G-Wagon with another G-Wagon, but this time she got the higher performance AMG model. A week later, she backed it into a pole and dented the spare tire cover. If you're worried about how Nicolette, now 16 years old, could face legal trouble for driving without a license, don't worry. She's paying an adult to sit in her back seat while she drives. There is so much wrong with this child. It's sad to think about. First of all, who gives their child a $5,000 a month allowance? I mean, even if you're rich, you shouldn't do that. That's a go directly to go kind of way of turning your child into a brat, which is exactly what happened. And the fact that she went to Dr. Phil to try and get more money out of her parents, that shows her line of thinking, if flawed in all ways that matter. The girl is a danger to herself, and I wouldn't be surprised if she found herself back on Dr. Phil for an entirely different reason eventually, probably because of recklessness, and I fully expect Dr. Phil to knock her down a few pegs when that happens. King Keith.
I don't contribute money. But you know what? Let's go ahead and talk to my mom right now about everything I do at home.
When it comes to kids and their parents, there's going to be a lot of things that they disagree about. That just comes with the territory that is a parent/child relationship. However, they often ask you to do things because they know it'll be better for you if you do them. And one of the biggest things that parents wish for is for their kids to go to school and then college. For a guy calling himself King Keith, which was his own nickname for the record, he believed that he was going to be so famous that he didn't need to get an education. When he went on Dr. Phil, he tried to build himself up to him by saying that he listens to him a lot and that he learns from him and takes his advice. But Dr. Phil knew better, especially when he could tell that despite his claims that he wasn't pulling his own weight around the house with his mom and instead focusing solely on his fame on the internet and in the world. Dr. Phil just wouldn't have it, and he made it very clear that King Keith had to do better both for himself and for his mom. Not that King Keith would openly believe that, because while he was just agreeing with Dr. Phil, you could tell that he really wasn't listening to him. Rather, he is just playing to him so that his credibility wouldn't drop. And then he tried to go and change tactics so that he could talk about what he wanted to talk about, which is when Dr. Phil dropped the hammer and said, since this is my show and you don't have yours yet, we're going to talk about the things on my agenda and not yours, which King Keith couldn't help but smile at because he knew he had just gotten called out. As sad and real as this is, you know that there are many young people like King Keith out there because of the age of the internet star, Tamara.
My desire to look perfect began at a young age.
If King Keith is one example of how spoiled and entitled kids these days are acting because of the prospect of internet fame and beyond, then Tamara is an example of the world itself and how we promote looking beautiful at every moment and every day. For Tamara, looking pretty wasn't just a goal, it was a mindset. She wasn't just wanting to look beautiful, she had to look beautiful, and even refused to leave the house at times if she wasn't looking perfect. Oh, and did I mention that she was only 17 at the time she went on Dr. Phil? But it gets worse, because she also dropped out of high school because of her looks. One of the reasons of which was that it would take her 3 hours just to get ready because of her needing to look as beautiful as she possibly could. Still not enough, she was so obsessed with being perfect looks-wise that she would spend thousands upon thousands of dollars every month on various beauty products to make sure she had everything she needed for her looks. Now, unlike some guests who are spoiled, Dr. Phil honestly took a more delicate approach with Tamara, noting that this thing she was going through was because she was obsessed with herself and suggesting that she needed to do something from her heart and build up her spirit by helping others and not focusing on herself. Something a lot of kids these days need to do. Am I right? Anyway, much like Dr. Phil, it's hard to be mad at someone like Tamara, as they're not ruining the world like some of the other kids on this list are, but rather she's a byproduct of the standards that the world say are needed to survive. She has it in her head that she has to live by these rules, and that's sad. Hopefully Dr. Phil's words were enough to help her get on the right path. You duct taped a disabled kid's mouth shut.
You duct taped a disabled kid's mouth shut.
Yes, I did. He wouldn't shut up.
That just about sums it up, doesn't it? I mean, you remember the movie Breakfast Club, where they shared stories about what they did to get into detention? And Emilio Estevez's character noted he duct taped a kid's butt cheeks together? He did it to be a man in his father's eyes, and he honestly felt bad about it later. But for Courtney, she had no such remorse when she quite literally taped the mouth of a disabled kid shut. Her reasoning? He wouldn't shut up. Oh, but it gets better. You see, the real reason that she did the event was because she felt that she was so much better than this kid, and that anything she did was fine because she was special. Right. And then, when it was clear that he was fed up with her, Dr. Phil straight up asked what was special about Courtney, and her response was, everything. Just everything. Which is sad on a whole other level, because that means she doesn't even know why she is special. I mean, I bet you King Keith would list hundreds of ways that he was special, but Courtney is so full of herself that she doesn't even know her good qualities. She just assumes that they're there, which is wrong on so many levels. Dr. Phil continues to point out why her behavior is wrong, but every time it just goes over her head because she just doesn't want to hear it. And yeah, there are other people like Courtney in our world too, which makes it all the more tragic. Dakota.
I have to restrain her so she doesn't beat me up.
Do you see me hitting her right now? Oh, come get me.
The idea of parental abuse is something many don't like to talk about, but it is indeed something that happens quite often in our world. But for the girl named Dakota who appeared on Dr. Phil, it was the other way around. She wasn't being abused by her parents, she was abusing them. Specifically, she would physically hurt her mother in attempts to be a rebel, which is not cool or right at all. But here's the twist, it was actually Dakota that called in Dr. Phil. Oh yeah, and for the right reasons. She claimed that she wanted his help to work through the problems she had with her mother and get on a better relationship standing with her. Waiting for the shoe to drop? Well, you don't have to wait any longer, because while Dr. Phil was more than happy to help, Dakota couldn't restrain herself in regards to her aggressive personality. She would frequently interrupt Dr. Phil in order to throw insults at the audience who clearly weren't in love with her. Then, when her mother described some of the things that Dakota did to her, like punching her in the face repeatedly, Dakota would go off a swearing rant and try to defend herself. I'm sorry, weren't you here to try and fix the relationship you broke with your mother? I'm confused. Dr. Phil obviously wasn't having it, and even told her to stop swearing on his show because it has no place here. Even the mother was having enough by stating, "Why don't you listen to Dr. Phil?" What a novel concept, especially since you were the one who called. Brittany, like King Keith, felt that fame was in her future.
Because I think this is funny, like I'm not even that big of an issue. The issue is sitting right there.
What's more, she felt it was in her immediate future. So much so that she actually dropped out of high school in order to get a jump on her YouTube star career. Yes, I know it's an actual career, but it's more limited than you think. Now, to her credit, she, unlike King Keith, felt that an education wasn't a total waste of time, but she said to Dr. Phil that she could get by with a GED in cosmetology and crime scene investigation, which, if you know what a GED is, it's not that at all. Anyway, Brittany was definitely a very arrogant child, criticizing and acting hostile towards her own mother when she tried to stop what was going on in her life. And when Dr. Phil tried to get involved, she just didn't care what he had to say, which honestly just proved Dr. Phil's point about why she was there. She went on a tirade about how Dr. Phil likes to break apart people and exploit weaknesses and all that, and Dr. Phil just sat there and let it all come out because he knew better. She even said, "You don't scare me," and he replied, "I'm not trying to." Oh yeah, this kid has a whole other level of arrogance going on, and it's good to see that Dr. Phil was able to take this at his own pace and deal with her in the right way, even if she didn't hear a word he said. Madison.
Because I think this is funny, like I'm not even that big of an issue. The issue is sitting right there.
I think we've all had times when we were scared of our parents in one way or another, mainly when they were yelling at us for doing something wrong or whatnot, or when they get way involved in a TV show that they say something out of character. I might be projecting there. Let's move on. For Madison's parents though, they were quite literally scared of their daughter, and not in the "I'm scared for what her future may be" kind of way. They were just scared of her daughter. Why is that? Simple. She's aggressive. Overly aggressive. Emphatically aggressive. She hurts them and they feel she's capable of even worse acts. They even have footage of one of her tirades, and it's pretty dark at times. Oh, but she's not just aggressive. She also doesn't accept at times what she does. Dr. Phil recalled a situation in regards to her taking her mother's car for a joyride. Madison's response? That she doesn't know what he's talking about, so he decides to pull up proof of the act from her social media page. When she got caught, she tried to change tactics, but Dr. Phil wouldn't let her. Not appreciating what Dr. Phil was doing, Madison walked off the stage and only came back after a commercial break. Yeah, the girl clearly has issues on a deep level. Bad baby.
Either I'm breaking down her door or she's breaking down my door. I don't stop till I start seeing dents in the door.
There may be no better example of someone spinning 15 minutes of fame into a career, or that our society has definitely hit rock bottom, than Danielle Cash Me Outside Bergoli, a teenager who originally appeared on Dr. Phil's show thanks to her terrible treatment of her mother. The troubled teen, who also goes by the name Bad Baby, originally appeared on Dr. Phil in September of 2016 for a segment titled I Want to Give Up My Car-Stealing, Knife-Wielding, Twerking 13-year-old daughter who tried to frame me for a crime. Talk about a mouthful. After the audience started laughing at her, she responded with her now legendary catchphrase, Cash Me Outside. How about that? The episode and the catchphrase took off online, and Bergoli reappeared on the show in February of 2017 to discuss her life since her first appearance, and without the studio audience. Going back to her original appearance, Dr. Phil dared ask the question that just about everyone was thinking. Did you drop out in 5th grade? The answer was no. She actually dropped out in 7th grade. Such an improvement. Sadly, this was one segment that didn't end with her getting help, because not only did she get famous and make famous music, she came back to gloat at Dr. Phil, even noting that she was the most famous guest he ever had, which he quickly put down too. Riley.
I believe that everything that we are seeing and perceiving now has already happened. We're just catching up with our 5 senses and really experiencing it fully.
Justin Timberlake? Justin Bieber? Ed Sheeran? No, I'm not talking about any of those vocalists. I'm talking about a 23-year-old man who made an appearance on Dr. Phil, who was self-proclaimed as one of the most influential songwriters of our generation. He has written countless songs, including Shake It Off alongside Taylor Swift. Riley genuinely believes that he co-wrote Taylor's hit single. He is so delusional that there was an instance at a local restaurant where he began violently kicking and throwing furniture around simultaneously, screaming, I miss Taylor. Coincidentally, Dr. Phil happens to be friends with Taylor's mother, who denied her and Taylor have any connection to Riley. To put the icing on the cake, Riley's own mother believes that he's lying. He has a reputation for abusing drugs and alcohol, which has destroyed his relationship with the rest of his family. It is hard to see whether or not he believes his own story, but the cunning smile displayed on his face when Dr. Phil accused him of lying about writing Taylor Swift's hit single is a fairly large clue. Phil definitely got the spoiled kid on his show, but either way, let us know how you would react if someone came up to you and said, I wrote all of Taylor Swift's songs.